So here we are in Desert Hot Springs at the cultivation facility of Gold Flora. We are with Phillip Hague, Chief Cultivation Officer at Gold Flora. Phillip, welcome.
Thank you.
So please tell us a little bit about the facility here. Thank you.
We have about 250,000 square feet of production space in the state of California. Here on this campus, about 120,000 square foot of cultivation, 40,000 square foot of canopy. So on this campus, we have 24 rooms that are all equal in size. They're all about 2,000 square feet, have 88 lights apiece. We try to standardize as many things as we can throughout the cultivation phase, so we have a better handle on just all of the known knowns. Makes it a lot easier to kind of predict and move things forward that way. Here in Desert Hot Springs, we operate 24 cultivation rooms in 120,000 square feet. We have an additional 20 acres of property that's already licensed and approved for expansion. The market just needs to be able to absorb the product before we build into it. But it's all there, it's all licensed, it's all approved.
So one of our major focuses strategically as a company was building the infrastructure and the scale that we can get the economy of scale out of it. So you're touring our facility today. Here we're able to produce premium quality flower at prices that are 50% lower than the competition for equal quality. That's because we have the scale, we have the genetics, and we have the full vertical model. We can package it, distribute it, sell it through our retail, sell it in wholesale at incredibly attractive prices to the consumer, which has been the strategy for Gold Flora Corporation since day one. Build the infrastructure to be able to execute like few others can across the state and really across the country.
Right, and maybe for those that are not so familiar, explain the difference you can get in quality between an indoor facility versus a greenhouse, the various types of greenhouses, and outdoor.
In indoor facilities, you have control of every aspect of the cultivation, basically. So, not only the lighting cycles, the amount of light, temperatures, humidities, all of the watering parameters. It makes it a little bit easier to dial rooms specifically for certain plant materials, so you can really get the best expression out of all the different genetics that you're running within the population.
Can someone producing flower in a greenhouse claim that they can make as good quality as you do in a facility like this, or that's not possible from a greenhouse?
You can grow really fantastic product in a greenhouse. It's a lot harder to kind of get the parameters where you want them to be. Sun-grown cannabis definitely has its place, but indoor cannabis does tend to be the highest in quality, tests the highest, higher terpenes, all those things.
Right, and also, the challenge is not just growing indoor, but growing at scale, right? Because there are
Absolutely.
many indoor facilities out there that are nowhere near this scale.
For sure.
And the bigger the scale, I suppose, the more difficult to manage consistency and the quality of the product. Or how do you deal with that?
Again, we standardize as much of the process as possible. All of our rooms are the same size for the most part. And we can really dial those rooms for specific genetic expression out of plants, kind of tweak the temperatures and the humidities, the irrigation frequency, the amount of lighting, all of those things, to really, again, get a very specific expression out of the genetics of any given strain.
Right. So, many people in the industry talk that someday when we have interstate trade, right, federal legalization, the production will tend to concentrate in certain areas. There's this notion that Oregon, Washington, California can produce lower quality, lower cost. I'm sorry. But when it comes to indoor, someone could say they can put a facility in Florida or in New York or in Illinois or California, and you could probably have similar quality and similar cost. Do you want to comment on that?
Again, that's the beauty of indoor cultivation is you can control all of the parameters. We're out here in the middle of the desert where it averages over 100 degrees for most of the year, which is difficult to kind of get a control of temperatures and humidity. But if you do that, you can create a very standardized environment across all of the spaces if need be. California, will always grow the best cannabis. It's a thing. California grown is a thing for a reason. Whether it be indoor, greenhouse, outdoor, the quality does tend to be the standard as far as the industry, the whole. As does California, so does the rest of the country.
Right, but on that point, in the future, when we're talking about indoor facilities, let's say again, Florida, Illinois, California, living quality aside, do you think that anyone will have a cost advantage? I mean, some people say California has more regulations, higher utility costs, higher cost in general, or that's not the right interpretation to think about that there could be a cost disadvantage on indoor.
Cost is absolutely a piece of it. You can get cheaper utilities in different parts of the country. Here, we actually get some of the lowest utility costs in the state, as far as I know of. We pay probably not even a third of what we pay in other municipalities here in Desert Hot Springs.
Right. And then there's the thing about expertise, right? That sometimes people maybe overlook. Talk about that. I mean, I know that people talk about strains, genetics, expertise. Someone in Florida again or New York would say, well, we'll hire the best cultivators, whether from the US or overseas, and we'll be able to produce just as good quality. I mean, can you talk about expertise that's been accumulated here in California in general?
California traditionally, for the last 50 years has been the standard bearer for cannabis cultivation, whether it be indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, all of the above. Experience is definitely a piece of it. I come from large-scale controlled environment agriculture traditionally, growing standard plant material in greenhouses. I've kind of done that my entire life. I've also been growing cannabis since 1992. There's something to be said for experience. And in the buildings that we have here, between 3 people, we have close to 100 years of experience cultivating cannabis alone. So, a lot of people early on from traditional agriculture came into the space. They understood that piece of it. They understood, controlled environment, greenhouse agriculture, but growing other plant material. Cannabis is a very specific plant. So I not only had that large scale agricultural experience, but also had a very intimate relationship with cannabis. I'd been growing it since 1992 and understood the economies of scale and, how to scale these operations up. When I first got into the industry, the whole industry was just a bunch of guys growing weed in their basement. And, for me, it was kind of right place, right time, right skill set.
6 dry rooms here at the Desert Hot Springs campus. So plants are cut. They are hung and dried whole. Hanging the whole plant kind of slows the drying process down. We like to trim a product dry. So we wait until the product is completely dry. It hangs for anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks. At that point, it then gets broken down off the majority of the stem and goes into bins where it's cured for about a month or so. At that point, it's then trimmed, and then it goes across the street for distribution at that point. Slow drying whole plants, trimming it, and then curing it is absolutely the goal for the highest end flower we can produce. It preserves all the cannabinoids. It preserves all the terpenes. The product smokes considerably better because it's dried much slower. There's multiple changes that go on in the moisture content of it that kind of breathes for about a month. We've also flushed the product for 10 days to 2 weeks previous to harvesting it. That allows the plant to kind of get rid of a lot of excess nutrient, chlorophyll, nitrogen. The product tends to burn better, smoke better. Again, it just leads to the highest quality end product, which is always our goal.
And now if we talk about the facility here itself, in terms of you been expanding capacity, maybe if you can touch on that, how much have you expanded by? What is there left to expand in terms of this facility? And in terms of the supply chain, how much of it does it go into your flower products? How much is it converted into distillate for your manufactured products, if you can touch on that? Or maybe you buy from outside for distillates or resin.
We're as vertical as possible. So not only do we own the cultivation, but we own the manufacturing, the extraction process, the supply chain through distribution, and multiple dispensaries throughout the state, which is fantastic. It's a great way to operate.
Because we've created the scale, we've created the infrastructure to be able to price it incredibly aggressively for the consumer benefit to get it. So our ability to create velocity by pricing it at a place where we know the consumer is getting an incredible deal to still get incredible quality product is a large strategic advantage for us as a corporation and a long-term business differentiator.
Because we're vertically integrated, we're able to capture the vast majority of the product that we produce, not only in this facility, but in our other facilities in other parts of the state. If we don't package it and put it into first-party products of our own and then sell through our own stores and through the wholesale chain, We do extract as much as possible. Every bit of the trim that we produce, all of that goes through our extraction process, gets turned into distillate. We're also running large amounts of fresh frozen plant material for live rosin. So we do capture anything and everything that we can within our supply chain.
Producing cannabis is not like just growing tomatoes or tobacco leaves or growing tobacco in a farm. It's a lot more complicated than that, right? So maybe tell us about that.
Cannabis is a very specific and specialized plant. It's the only dioecious, photoperiodic, annual plant in the world. Every piece of that is a specialized requirement for cannabis. The photoperiod part being the number of hours of sunlight versus darkness it needs. All those various pieces aren't necessarily known to traditional agriculture. A lot of big ag people came into the space early on and didn't do so well because they didn't have an intimate relationship with cannabis. They understood big agriculture and the economies of scale, but they didn't understand. They didn't even know what good weed was at the time. And that kind of shakes out as years go by. But people have been working with cannabis for years. Definitely understand the plant better and understand what the higher quality cannabis is and all of those other things.